Hello and welcome into another edition of the Prep Zone here on DMVSTREAM.com. I'm Jeremy Huber, joined today by the Washington Post Mark Giannotto and the Connections John Ropeman. Thanks for joining us again, guys.
How's it going?
Thanks for having us.
Obviously, another big weekend of high school football. Most teams got their playoffs started. A few teams kind of winding up to that this week. We'll talk all about it on the show. Lots to get into, a lot of games, some big ones over the weekend. We're going to recap. Of course, you see them on your screen. The big one in the WCAC, the big upset, good Counsel knocking off Gonzaga. Also, the upset Chantilly and Madison, Eleanor, Roosevelt, at least by seed, upset against Duval. And South Lakes with a big win over Oakton. Also, Northwest Richard Montgomery, West Potomac, and West Springfield. All those games coming up on the show tonight. Also, we'll be previewing the big WCAC championship matchup this weekend. Also, a Conference 5 playoff edition between Robinson and Chantilly. Also, Howard and Sherwood in Maryland. Also, another Maryland game between Patuxent and Gwynn Park. Also, we'll hear from our recruiting expert, Josh Apple. He'll talk about the quarterback out of Avalon, Isaiah Robinson. Of course, lots to get going on the show. We're going to get it all started coming up right after this.
Next step, I will be heading to New York City, the Big Apple, and I will be working as an associate producer on World News Tonight with David Muir. And that'll include a lot of technical things, I think, from what I heard in my interviews and speaking with some of the staff members and the executive producer. A lot, editing VOs, VOSOTs, SOTs, but also working my way up to being possibly a secondary shooter in the event that a reporter goes out on a breaking story, or maybe David Muir goes out on a breaking story. When I learned that I got it, it was an opportunity I couldn't say no to. It's ABC News, and you don't often get those calls. But I will say this, and I 100% firmly believe this: synthesis. My time with them helped me set. That's the reason why I got the job.
Let's get right into it. PG County has produced a lot of football talent in the past years, but let's take a look at it from...
I would say the things that I learned during my time at Synthesis, learning how to never reject an opportunity, no matter what role you're playing, whether it's a cam op, whether it's talent. Also, it taught me, I think, to realistically see my goals. You're not going to achieve things like that. It's 1 in a million shot that happens. You have to work your way up, and I'm a firm believer that, because I do want to eventually do on-air work, is that you have to master everything behind the camera before you get in front of it.
Welcome back into the Prep Zone. Jeremy Huber, Mark Giannotto, and John Ropeman here with you. Time to take a look at the games from the past weekend. That's why we call it the Weekend Rewind. We'll start off with the biggie in the WCAC. Mark, good Counsel, Gonzaga, and a bit of a surprise at Byrd Stadium.
Yeah, kind of a pretty big upset, all things considered, the way Gonzaga had played this year. I know they were coming off a loss in their regular season finale, but good Counsel, this was a 3-3 game at halftime, and good Counsel just blew the lid off the thing after halftime. They held Tyree Randolph, Gonzaga's really good junior running back, to just 68 yards. First play of the second half, executed a flea flicker. That really got things started. And then Devin Judd had a couple big plays, an interception return from his own end zone, 100-plus yards, and then a 66-yard touchdown catch. So really, really nice win for good Counsel that had sort of an up and down year by their standards, but when it counted most here in the WCAC playoffs, they showed up again. They showed why they're a perennial juggernaut in the WCAC under Bob Malloy. Yeah,
and you talk about it. The craziest thing about this maybe is the fact that the regular season matchup, as you kind of alluded to, was won by Gonzaga 32-13. So even bigger upset in that sense. A lot of guys had big performances in this one for the Falcons.
Yeah, no, and Devin Judd is one of many D1 recruits that was on the field on Saturday at Byrd Stadium, and obviously had a really, really nice game. But it's interesting, just in the WCAC with those top 4 teams, DeMatha, Good Counsel, Gonzaga, St. John's, on any given day, those teams can beat each other. There's so much talent at those schools. You just kind of feel a little bad for Gonzaga because they had such a good year. People were kind of not down on them, but they lost a lot from last year's team. And then they started out 9-0, had that big win over DeMatha on national TV, entered the national rankings, and to sort of end their season. I know they're in the they play in the DCSAA playoffs in a couple weeks against Friendship Collegiate, but to fall short of that WCAC title, it doesn't. It's just too bad because they really had a great season and really showed a lot of people that there's still plenty of talent in Northwest Washington.
Yeah, most definitely a very talented team. And as you mentioned, it's going to be maybe 2 more games on the slate for Gonzaga as they go for the DC State Championship. Let's move over to our second game of the weekend rewind. That one would be a public school matchup in Virginia, Chantilly and Madison. John, bit of an upset in that one.
Yeah, Jeremy, this was the biggest upset of the week in the 6A North playoffs. Chantilly came in 13 seed, 5-5, had lost their last 3 regular season games. Madison had won 9 in a row, Conference 6 champion, but Chantilly didn't really come into this one feeling like an underdog. Conference 5, the old Concord district, routinely puts out some of the strongest teams in the area, and those teams come out so battle-tested when it comes playoff time that it doesn't matter what the other team's record is. They feel confident that they can hang around, and Chantilly was down 12 points in the second half, but didn't panic. David Tamaro throw 3 touchdown passes, and sure enough, they come back and get the 27-19 win. Cush Eastman runs for over 100 yards, and it's just another example of the Concord teams and the benefit of pounding on each other. And while your record may not be fantastic going into the playoffs, if you can get into the tournament, you'll be better for having gone through those battles during the conference season. And sure enough, they pull off what's considered an upset through seed only by beating Madison 27-19.
And really, if you think about the crazy thing there is the fact that Madison only loses 2 games of the season, lost the season opener as well, and that one was to a Conference 5 team in Oakton.
Absolutely, yes. That could have been a sign, I guess, a little bit. Conference 6 was kind of down this year. They kind of breezed through that conference, but that kind of a red flag to lose early because Oakton was another team, I believe they finished 5-5 as well. So Madison, while they were able to kind of bully the teams in Conference 6 when they ran against the teams from the Conference 5 Concord District, they ran into some trouble, and they had a really great season, conference championship, but when you play the big boys, you run into trouble, and Chantilly gets it done.
Yeah, Mike Lawley's squad getting a very big win in that contest to move on. Let's get to our third game of the weekend rewind. That was an interesting one in PG County as Eleanor Roosevelt, at least by seed mark, gets the upset against Duval.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Upset by seed. Eleanor Roosevelt had really been coming on strong here towards the end of the season, and this whole season's really been a coming out party for Carl Mofor, but he hadn't performed like this on this sort of stage, and he goes off for 30 rushes for 214 yards, a few touchdowns, really did it all for Eleanor Roosevelt. He's a really talented linebacker as well. Had a block kick, I believe, in this one. But Eleanor Roosevelt, they lost 35 seniors from last year's team. And this group, it's taken a little bit to come together, but that triple option has really gotten going here late in the season. And it's too bad we didn't see Duval at full strength with Antoine Brooks. He missed half the year after that ankle injury and wrist injury he suffered, and Duval kept winning without him, but the run ended here against an Eleanor Roosevelt team that, even though they don't have a lot of veterans, these kids are used to winning in the playoffs, being in the playoffs, and no one is a better example of that than Carl Mofor, whose brother Mike was the star running back last year, and he's sort of taken the mantle now and did something his brother couldn't because his brother lost to Duval last year in the region finals. We'll see what Carl can do this week. They're going against Wise, who beat them pretty handily during the regular season, but maybe they can make things interesting in this region final, this 4A South region final. Yeah,
you talk about that revenge factor. They get it this past week against Duval. We'll see what they can do against Wise in the matchup this weekend. Well, of course, football winding its way down as the winter sports are ready for the start of things. Well, last week, the Robinson and Fairfax wrestling teams took part in a cool event for a great cause.
This is a great night tonight. Tanner Sewell, the coach at Fairfax, brand new coach, and he's really trying to change the face of wrestling. We're doing something cool outside, a little bit different, and really just to raise awareness, not only for the sport of wrestling, but for the Eric Monday Foundation. mental illness is in a lot of people's families, and unfortunately, Eric took his own life a couple years ago. And the Eric Monday Foundation has done a great job of raising awareness for mental illness through the sport of wrestling.
So the whole purpose of why we're out here is it's for raising awareness for mental illnesses. Our catchphrase that's on all of our clothes is breaking the stigma, pretty much raising awareness for mental illnesses and getting it out there. But we're told that 2 out of every 10 kids thinks about suicide in their life, and this is a serious issue. We're most excited about tonight. This is the first time we're competing out here. A lot of our guys are hungry for competition, facing a local team. We're just ready to go, and it's for a good cause. Doing something that we love for a good cause is always a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's an honor to be able to wrestle for Robinson and to be able to wrestle outside and for this cause. I think it's really cool. It's a really cool event. There's a lot of people here, and it's cool because it's in the middle of the city of Fairfax, so that's pretty neat.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I mean, the weather could not have been better. It's absolutely beautiful. Right in the middle of Fairfax City, which is a very big part of our identity at Fairfax. It's great to be a part of the city, and it's great to utilize these resources, these facilities, and again, for a good cause. And it's just great to spread awareness for this and also grow our sport. Just getting in the swing of things and building relationships with the kids, watching them grow, watching them develop, watching them mature, to really make our program an integral part of the community. That's really what I'm looking forward to the most.
My son's a junior wrestler at Robinson, and we're just here to support the Eric Monday Foundation, and we're happy to see everybody out supporting the foundation and the wrestling teams.
This is definitely a great opportunity to promote wrestling because you see all these people and you really don't get very many people, so seeing everyone out here watching for a different cause but also getting to see wrestling, and maybe they'll try it out or something like that, have their kids try out. It's great.
I have a great group of boys you can see behind me who are, and a couple girls on our team as well, who are great character, but I just don't want to ever be that dad or that coach to have to deal with a situation that the Mondays dealt with. So what a great platform tonight, and the Lord's blessed us with a great night, great weather, and it's just a fantastic time.
You can purchase a copy of this video at DMVSTREAM.COM. That's DMVSTREAM.COM. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back into the Prep Zone here on DMVSTREAM.com. Time to continue our look back with the weekend rewind. We get back over to Virginia for an interesting matchup between South Lakes and Oakton. John, how'd this one go down?
Well, South Lakes is a program that has experienced quite the turnaround under head coach Trey Taylor, and he said one of the biggest differences with this team as opposed to last is last year, if they fell behind, they would just kind of quit and snowball. This year, they've shown resiliency. They finished 8-2 in the regular season, best record they've had in over 15 years. But that resiliency got put to the test. They fell behind Oakton 14-0, even though they were the 6th seed hosting the game. Had to battle back, tie at the half. Oakton actually takes the lead with 28-14 with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. South Lakes doesn't panic. They cut the lead in half. Kevin Damper comes up with a big interception, returns it inside the 5. South Lakes punches it in, and the Seahawks are able to get the ball back and score the game winner with less than a minute to go. Sophomore quarterback Devin Miles throws 3 touchdown passes. Huge game. It's a testament to the work that Coach Taylor has done with the Seahawks and turning a program that's been a perennial loser the last few years into a team that not only had a strong regular season but believed it could come back against a team like Oakton that comes from Conference 5 and has had playoff success in the past. And the result is South Lakes getting their first playoff win since 2010.
Yeah, Devin Miles with a big performance, as you see there. As you mentioned, those 3 touchdown passes. Interestingly enough, I believe earlier in the season, South Lakes played a Langley squad. They had to come back 2 touchdowns down in that one. So maybe a little bit of experience in that realm helped them come back in that matchup.
Absolutely. They had to come back against Yorktown as well. So they did have a couple of battles during the season to where they had their resiliency tested, and once again in the postseason, and they were able to overcome the hurdle. Now they have a tough test in 3rd seed Westfield coming up next week. Trey Taylor says that they're going to have to play their A game to beat Westfield, and he's probably right on that one.
Let's flip it over now to Maryland, an interesting matchup there, a regular season rematch actually, as it was Richard Montgomery and Northwest facing off, and Mark kind of went the same way it did during the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, this is all about Northwest, two-time defending state champions. You know, they have 3 losses this year, but they're still the champs until someone knocks them off. Richard Montgomery had a nice year coming off consecutive 2-8 seasons. They really had a really good year by RM standards, but you know, when you're facing a team with the pedigree like Northwest, they've been in these situations before. I mean, look at their quarterback, Mark Pierce, prolific. He's undefeated in the playoffs still as a starting quarterback after those 2 state title runs. This one wasn't really close. You know, RM kept it competitive, but Northwest jumped out to a 20-0 lead. RM made things interesting. Their quarterback, Ty Hebron, had a 61-yard touchdown pass to start the second half. But, you know, it's tough to rattle a team like Northwest. And I know Northwest has had this region final coming up against Quince Orchard circled after losing to them during the regular season. 2 traditional powerhouse teams in Montgomery County. So it'll be interesting to see what Northwest does here. This is their 4th straight year in the region finals, and a big reason is this guy, Mark Pierce. Had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game as well, and he's been through those battles. Maybe he doesn't have quite the supporting cast he's had in previous years, but he's still a really, really good quarterback.
You know, Marky Mark gets the job done, and the interesting thing there is you talk about the competitiveness throughout and the situations. Really, if you think about it, 5 playoff teams on the Northwest schedule this year, only 1 for Richard Montgomery. It was Northwest, so obviously that I'm sure helped in the contest. Let's take a look at our final game of the show. That would be West Potomac and West Springfield, another regular season rematch. John, how'd this one go?
Well, yeah, Jeremy, this was a revenge game for West Potomac. They finished the regular season 7-3, had a potent offense through the air and on the ground, and they faced West Springfield team that actually had a worse record than they did, but they had to go to West Springfield because the Spartans defeated them during the regular season, held them to a season-low 9 points, a season-low 50 rushing yards. So West Potomac was out to prove that they weren't that same team that lost in the regular season, and Damon Cleveland pretty much took care of that on his own. 25 carries, 291 yards, 4 touchdowns. The sophomore was unstoppable. He got things started right away. Their first play from scrimmage, he goes 90 yards for a touchdown, starts off running to his left, works his way upfield, cuts it back, drops the kid with a stiff arm, and he was gone. And like I said earlier, this was kind of a revenge game for West Potomac to kind of prove that they weren't the team that only scored 9 points during the regular season, and they were able to run for over 400 yards.
And was that the game that had the late start too because of weather?
Yes, it was. Yeah, there was a 2-hour weather delay on that one, and well, head coach Jeremiah Ross will tell you can't make excuses. West Springfield had to deal with it. I've seen West Potomac play multiple times this year, and they were not the usual West Potomac that night. And I think the delay did hurt them, while West Springfield handled it much better. But in this playoff rematch, West Springfield had no answer for Damon Cleveland. He just tore him up.
Regular rest regular timing, I guess, worked better off this time for West Potomac. Well, our recruiting expert, Josh Apple, had a chance to talk a little bit about it. One of the guys to watch out for in the area, the quarterback of Avalon, Isaiah Robinson.
I'm Josh Apple, Recruiting Insider, here today to talk about Isaiah Robinson. My first question is simply, who is Isaiah Robinson? He's a junior quarterback for Avalon, just finished his first year as a starter as a junior, and he put up very impressive numbers in his first season. He went 198 of 286 passing, that's a 69% completion rate. He also threw for over 2,300 yards and threw for 23 touchdowns. You've seen his highlights here. He's a guy that can just air it out. He loves being in the shotgun. He likes doing pre-read snaps. He likes the spread, and he plays quickly. Pretty much exactly what Avalon likes to do offensively. They're a pass-heavy team, and they also have some very talented receivers, highlighted by Trevon Diggs, the Alabama commit, a well-known guy in the area. So between the scheme and some of the talent around him, he had great opportunity to put up big numbers this season, which he certainly did. And my next question being, how is his recruiting process going so far? And like I said, he's just a junior. He just had 1 year starting under his belt, but the recruiting process is already well underway for him. And he has 15 Division I schools that are going after him already. No offers yet, but lots of interest. And that impressive list of 15 is Boston College, Illinois, Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Navy, Northwestern, ODU, Purdue, Temple, UNC, UVA, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, and William & Mary. So not too shabby list there. And he so far has visited Maryland, Navy, ODU, Temple, and William & Mary. He took a couple visits last weekend, but he also has visits planned each of the next 3 weekends. The season's over for Avalon. They finished the year at 5-6, so that gives Robinson more time to focus on the recruiting process now that he is in his off season. And my next question being, is he a Division I talent? And as you see in his highlights here, I mean, he certainly is a guy that can air it out. He likes being in the shotgun. He's a pass-first guy. He has the ability to run, but not his strength, and that's exactly what a college team is looking for. First and foremost, they look for a guy with size. He's 6'2", 180, so great height there at the quarterback position. And playing from the spread and playing quickly, that's exactly what colleges want. So, I mean, he's the perfect prototype for a college system. I mean, every college system is essentially running a spread now. And 15 programs going after him, I mean, numbers don't lie. And as you see his numbers here, those numbers don't lie either. So I would say he is certainly a Division I prospect. And he'll land.
And welcome back in. Before we get to the guys' games to look at in the weekly fast forward, I was able to catch up with the Washington Post Gabe Hyatt a little bit earlier to talk about the big 2A South contest between Gwynn Park and Patuxent. Jeremy Huber here with the Washington Post's Gabe Hyatt to preview a big game this weekend in Maryland. It's a 2A South matchup between Gwynn Park and Patuxent. Gabe, obviously a big matchup. Anytime a playoff spot and another chance to advance is on the line, it's going to be a big one. Tell us about this match between these two quality teams.
Well, first of all, down there in the Maryland 2A South region, it's going to be an excellent matchup. This is what it's all about, folks. This time of year, the region championship is going to be on the line, and we're going to have two tough physical teams. Lusby is a great host for a game like this. The community is really tight-knit there. We're going to have a couple key players, two very powerful offenses, two experienced teams in the playoffs. And when you're looking at Patuxent, you're looking at their core wide receivers. They have 3 guys who had experience as sophomores going all the way to the state championship that they lost against Middletown 2 years ago in the 2013 season. So you got Jared Massengill, you got Greg Leonard, and Tyler Gross. All 3 of those guys have excellent speed and toughness, maybe a little undersized. They all contribute in the passing game. They get some carries in the running game, and they're going to be involved in the secondary. So I would look to those 3 guys for some leadership. On Gwynn Park's side, their playmakers at quarterback. You got the rare quarterback who lines up at defensive end, Aaron Parker. He's a beast, folks. Eastern Michigan's going to be allowing him to come on their football team, and before that, he's hoping to make a run deep in the playoffs and would like a 2A South championship for himself.
We now continue the weekly fast forward. Now we take a look at our first game with the 2 guys here with Mark and John as we take a look, Mark, at that big one, another big one at Byrd Stadium. It's the one we always seem to see in the WCAC. It's DeMatha and Good Counsel.
Yeah, DeMatha, Good Counsel. Here we are again, 10th time in 12 years. These 2 juggernauts are going to play for the WCAC title. They played 2 weeks ago. I was at that game. DeMatha won 28-23, but it was a really exciting game. Good Counsel had the ball with a chance to take the lead at DeMatha's 20 inside with a minute left in the game after mounting a comeback. These are probably 2 of the most, DeMatha certainly and Good Counsel is right up there, 2 of the most talented teams in the area, if not the country. There's just tons of college talent on these 2 teams. I think you're watching the running backs, their highlights on this. I think that's what's going to really decide this. The battle between Good Counsel's Muhammad Ibrahim and DeMatha's Lorenzo Harrison. Both of them had over 175 yards in the first meeting. So this is going to be a fun one, and this is going to have some implications region-wide. Who's the best team in the area? Can DeMatha cement its spot as the best team in the area? I've got DeMatha winning this one. I'm going to go with 35-24. But I see it being a game that comes down to the fourth quarter.
How about you, John?
Well, DeMatha, as Mark just said, wins the first matchup. I don't see any reason why they can't pull it off a second time, so I'm going to go with DeMatha.
I agree with you. I think this was kind of their destiny this year. I think they go ahead and get it done. Let's go ahead and take a look at our second game of the weekly Fast Four. That one is in Virginia. It's a contest, John, between Chantilly and Robinson, two Conference 5 teams.
Yes, Jeremy. Robinson just pulled off a difficult feat. They had to beat Centerville 2 weeks in a row, and the second time it took them a last-minute field goal to get it done. But they're the 5 seed. They advanced, and because Chantilly pulled off the upset, Robinson's going to get to host this game as opposed to maybe going to Madison like they might have thought. But Robinson barely throws the football. They operate out of that wing tee with the 3 big backs, Sean Foncha, Roman Lowry, and Dejan Lee. And Chantilly head coach Mike Lawley said the biggest benefit from having played them during the regular season, and that was a game Robinson won, was his players now recognize just how big and physical those 3 running backs are and how aggressive Robinson is on defense. But this is a game that's going to be another knockdown, drag-out kind of Conference 5 game, and it's going to depend on if Chantilly can slow down Robinson's 3 running backs. And Sean Foncha is having a great season. He's run for over 1,300 yards, and Robinson's looking to continue their playoff run here.
Is that your pick?
Yeah, I'm going with Robinson to keep it on the ground and get the victory.
Defense and running game, I'll go with Robinson too.
Yeah, they're, I think, just going to grind it out. I think the Chantilly Cinderella run ends. One last one for you as we take a look at the contest in Maryland. It's Sherwood, it's Howard. It's Montgomery County versus Howard County. Mark, how's this one going to go?
This might be the game of the week. Howard's undefeated, but probably not getting maybe the respect they deserve being undefeated because they play in Howard County, and some coaches around the area just don't view it at the same height as Montgomery County football. Sherwood is undefeated on the field. Their one loss is a forfeit that they actually won the game. So this is going to be really interesting. Malik Anderson for Howard is a dynamic running back, and Sherwood's got 2 really good playmakers. I'm going to go with Sherwood here in a really close one.
John, how about you?
I'm going to go with Howard on this one. Malik Anderson, talented running back like Mark said, and I think they might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder for this one, so I'll go with Howard to beat Sherwood.
Well, I'm going to go with Sherwood on this one. You talk about chips on the shoulder. Talking to the coaching staff over at Sherwood, they've kind of said, hey, the forfeit on the field, we're looking to prove something. We'll see if they can go ahead and get it done this weekend. Want to thank our 2 guests tonight, Mark Giannano, also John Roteman. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. This has been another edition of the Prep Zone. I'm Jeremy Huber. We'll see you next time.